Joining us now, Michael Fanone, former D.C. Metropolitan Police Officer, and Harry Dunn, former Capitol Police Officer. Both defended the Capitol on January 6, 2021.
Thank you both so much for being here. Michael, can you believe it's 5 years?
I really don't take the time to reflect on these anniversaries. I still see, this is a very active fight that began on January 6, 2021. If you've ever been in a fight, I don't think it's you take the time to reflect on how that fight began. You just continue the fight until you've won, and we're a long way from winning this battle.
Harry, I'm wondering if you see it the same way, because in the aftermath of the January 6th, I know we here at this table actively described it in all the anniversaries that we've been together. We've described it as understanding it was the beginning, not the end of something. And given what happened at the beginning of President Trump's first term, where he pardoned all of the defendants who were convicted of crimes on January 6th, I think that just bolstered the argument.
Yeah, like I agree absolutely with what Michael said. We are still in the middle of this, and we haven't stopped fighting, literally and metaphorically, since January 6th, January 7th. We've spoken out because we want accountability for what happened. Now, what does that look like? I don't know. Yes, it's easy for people to think, man, it's been 5 years. I cannot believe it's been 5 years. But I think it's easy to lose grip of time when there's been no accountability. And I feel like if there was accountability, then yeah, we could have the time talk, and we could talk about time being distorted. But the problem is history gets distorted when there is no accountability. So that's what we're seeing now with what's going on with this administration, whitewashing, and let alone people just forgetting about what happened that day.
Gentlemen, you both touch on various aspects of all of this that I think a lot of Americans still, in many respects, try to understand and contextualize. And it often leads to the what happens next, where are we now, what's going on now. Michael, the House Judiciary Report touched on the where are they now aspect of this. Jamie Raskin wrote the foreword to this report, noting, quote, "Nothing captures the state of our disunion better than the divergent understandings of what happened on January 6th. For most Americans, it remains a day of shame, infamy, and danger, with convicted insurrectionists and coup plotters exposed as traitors to democracy, and the brave, bloody police officers and stalwarts of the Constitution standing in the breach as patriotic defenders of the Republic. But for President Trump and his defenders, January 6th remains a kaleidoscopic projection of MAGA political myths, fantasies, and conspiracy theories." So very much to your point, Michael, as much as we try to move along in the fight to secure, again, the liberties of democracy and the freedoms and all that was stood at risk that day, you still have those who are engaged in the conspiracies, the lies, the BS, still perpetrated by the man in the Oval Office, very much as it was then. What do you say to your fellow Americans as someone who stood in that breach, who was one of those brave, bloodied police officers, who understood in the moment what was important? Help them understand, if they still follow these conspiracies and these lies, why the direction they're headed in is not good for them or our country.
Well, first I would say that if I would ask anything of my fellow Americans, it would be to take the time in this 5th anniversary of January 6th to reflect on Jack Smith's sworn testimony before Congress, in which he laid out the fact that the Department of Justice, under his leadership in pursuing this investigation, determined that with proof beyond a reasonable doubt, Donald Trump orchestrated, funded, and incited the insurrection at the Capitol on January 6, 2021. And so, with that understanding, we have a president who has assumed the office unlawfully in violation of our Constitution. He is someone who is engaged in insurrection. We watched that play out before our very eyes. But, Jack Smith's testimony only lends credence to that. But I would also caution, my fellow Americans in that, we talk about all these other distractions that are taking place right now, Venezuela and all these different things. Donald Trump has replaced the rule of law, both in our foreign policy and our domestic policy, with the idea that the ends always justify the means. And that is an incredibly dangerous road to traverse down. And I hope that we're able to course correct before we start to see the results and the repercussions that we will inevitably reap as a result of pursuing that as a policy.
Harry, Michael referenced Jack Smith's testimony he gave on December 17th of 2025, testimony that House Judiciary Republicans chose not to release until New Year's Eve, when most of America was a little busy doing other things. So in case anyone might have missed it, let's take a listen to what Michael just said there. This is Smith talking about the evidence making it clear that Donald Trump was the most culpable.
The evidence here made clear that President Trump was, by a large measure, the most culpable and most responsible person in this conspiracy. These crimes were committed for his benefit. The attack that happened at the Capitol as part of this case does not happen without him. The other co-conspirators were doing this for his benefit.
Harry, I don't know. Why would you not want all of America to hear that and have the opportunity to hear it on a day when they weren't distracted by so many other things?
It crushes their narrative. It absolutely humiliates the individual that they pledged undying fidelity to, and that's Donald Trump. So that's why they released it, like you just said, on New Year's Eve when everybody's out on vacation or winter break, if you will. But to go back to the point I want to address, though, but what do you talk about the people that are still... I love you all to death. I love you three, you'll host to death. But you don't need a pundit. You don't need me. You don't need Michael Fanone. You don't need a congressperson to tell you what you saw on January 6th. Mm-hmm. I think everybody can probably remember the outfit that they had on, where they were on January 6th. Press mute and just press play. And you tell me that we're okay with that, with what happened as a country. Are we okay with that? And that's, it seems like, where we are right now. We have to determine if we are okay with what happened. And a lot of Republicans in the beginning, they were very upset with it. They were upset with Donald Trump. They were upset with what happened that day. And they were like, we're done with him. Mitch McConnell, Lindsey Graham, the list goes on and on. Every single Republican, they're done with them. But now power, they just crave that desire to have Donald Trump's support, because it seems like as Americans, we had the opportunity to reject that in November, and we didn't. We had an opportunity to get all these institutions, the failed institutions, failure to convict him in the Senate, failure for the courts to hold him accountable. We had the opportunities, but the American people had the ultimate say so, and we didn't live up to what I thought that we were capable of as Americans. So it's always important for us to continue to talk about this, especially while there's so much whitewashing going on. I said in my testimony, when I testified before Congress, how can we move on from January 6th without correcting what happened? And there's been no accountability yet. And the little bit that we did have, you saw with the president pardoning them, a criminal pardoning criminals.
I will just note before we go that the two of you are heroes. The Metropolitan Police Department, the DC MPD, it is because they came to the aid of their brothers and sisters at the Capitol Police that the Capitol was not overrun that day. It is because the MPD officers held the line until the cavalry came that the president refused to call for. And we should never forget that. We should also never forget, Michael, that, you know, this isn't just about what happened then, Mr. Chairman. It's about what the president is saying and doing right now in advance of elections in 2026.
Absolutely.